Welcome to the A2 Show with Andrew Cass and Aaron Parkinson, bringing you the trends and topics that affect our lives the most: business, politics, fitness, family, and finance. With over 50 plus years of combined business experience and over $1 billion in revenue generated, your hosts have a unique gift for seeing many steps ahead where others do not. They bring their unfiltered, contrarian views to the show every week to help you win in business and in life.
We're back. We're back.
We are back and live.
Welcome to the A2 Show, everybody. If you are an avid listener of Sales Velocity TV and radio, we have essentially just rebranded the show. We haven't changed a thing. Same social media channels, same podcast platforms. Just a different theme, a different spin. We'll talk about the reasons why here in a little bit, but it's really good to be back live. And I have to tell you, Aaron, I like what the team did with the show theme and the branding and the look and feel. And you made me wear a black shirt. So we're going to Steve Jobs' approach. Remember Steve Jobs, by the way? The guy literally didn't do anything but wear a black shirt every single day. So Aaron and I were like, should we go with the black shirts with the black theme? And whatever. I mean, I think it looks pretty cool. Good to be back, buddy.
Good to be back. And we'll see if we want to keep going with the black theme with the black shirts. But today it just seemed like, let's just go all in on the all black theme and go from there.
Tie into the edges of the show, the design, right?
Yeah. And I'm excited to be back. I when you do 158 plus episodes like we've done before,
right?
It puts you in the top probably 0.1% of people who do podcasts.
You're absolutely right, Aaron. I don't mean to cut you off. I had one of my good friends at his office. I have to find this link for anybody who does podcasts. You can find out what the rating and the ranking is based on listenership.
Okay.
There's a podcast search tool. Sales Velocity TV was one of the top sales and marketing shows in that category, which isn't a huge category, sales and marketing. It's a small category. But we were top 7%. We were within that top 7% of sales and marketing oriented shows for the last 3 or 4 years that we did Sales Velocity TV. So that was pretty cool. And people message us all the time, and we really got great feedback on that. But I feel like there was only so far we could go with the topic of sales only.
Yeah, and I think if you're one of those people that was a hardcore listener to Sales Velocity and you really want to know how to increase the sales in your business, go back and binge watch those first 150 episodes. But for us, it was getting more difficult to talk about how do we increase sales another way when we've told you 150 ways of episodes.
You can only skin a cat so many ways, as they say, right? But I'm glad you mentioned that, Aaron. So as of now, you can go to salesvelocitytv.com and see the 150 plus episodes by topic category. And there's really some good learning lessons in there. In fact, we are taking the best of the best here, folks. Stay tuned for this. The best of the best 10 to 15 episodes of Sales Velocity TV, and it is now being transcribed and edited and written into a book format. It looks like that book will be released in 2024 under the name the Revenue Multipliers. So our best revenue generating episodes have been visited, transcribed, edited, cleaned up, formatted, because talking is a lot different than writing. And it will be it looks like probably a nice hardcover book that we'll make available here quite a bit on the show. And the a2show.com or the a2show.info is where all of our shows will be here shortly as well. So whenever you may be watching this, that might not mean much to you because you might be chiming in here for the first time. But we did do this show under the name Sales Velocity TV and radio for close to 4 years. And we're going to pivot into those topics a lot, Aaron. I think we're seeing a lot in the sales and business space. But the 5 categories that we're tackling right now, as you saw in the intro, will be business, of course, because that's us. That's our background, business and entrepreneurship. Politics, number 2, because that's become so important in our lives these days, and it affects business a lot, and it affects your life a lot. And then fitness, family, and finance, things that are really important to us, especially the fitness and the family piece, which is that balance piece. And then it all leads to, do you have your financial house in order? So 5 topic categories. We bounce around a little bit, but it's giving us 5 pillars to talk into that we know from experience and from our amazing contacts and relationships in different ventures that we've been a part of. We're friends for 2005, 2006. I mean, almost 20 years we've known each other. As the intro said, over $1 million in revenue generated, probably a lot more than that from all of our companies and clients and projects combined. There's not a whole lot we haven't seen.
And I'd like to correct you there. You just said $1 million.
No, I said $1 billion.
Oh, did you? Okay, I
Oh,
thought you said a million. I was like, a million.
How dare you?
That's last week.
What are you insulting? You want to start the show with insulting me?
I was thinking to myself, I manage 10 million a month in ad spend. We probably did a million in sales today.
Probably been a couple billion in revenue from all the ventures and companies and client work. And
Absolutely.
and you're and the show's brought to you by my company, Pipeline Pro, and your agency, 7 Mile Media. And you're right. Aaron's company is probably managing 20, 30 million a month collectively in ad spend amongst, I don't know, 40 clients. We're one of them. So maybe, right?
Yeah, it's significant, and it's just math, right? Like as your business grows, you become more comfortable with the math, and then it's just numbers, and you start to become a little bit immune to it. But sometimes when I sit back and look at the actual numbers, it's pretty staggering.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
let's talk about the show for a second. So, why did we want to pivot? For me, it's really important because, Andrew, you and I talk about this both offline and online.
Mm-hmm.
The goal of life isn't to just make as much money as you can and buy as much stuff as you can, and then one day just, wake up and die. Like that's ridiculous. It's cold. It's purposeless. For me, and I know for you as well, we're constantly striving for creating that optimal version of ourselves. And to be optimal, yes, sales and business and money is a big part of that. But to be able to achieve success in that arena, you also have to be successful in other arenas. You've got to be successful inside your own four walls. That's your family. That's the relationship with your husband or your wife. That's the relationship with your kids. Your kids and what they will go on to do in their lives is a direct reflection of you and the job you've done parenting. And then you take the next step and say, well, how can I possibly be successful in all these different areas at one time? Well, I can tell you without any hesitation, if your fitness is in the toilet, you're going to have a very difficult time achieving success in anything, let alone your family and your business. So you and I spend probably an equal amount of time talking about what we eat, what we drink, what we do, from an athletic standpoint. I already golfed 9 holes this morning, and you were angry because you haven't.
Not happy about it.
And so the fitness is a big part of what allows us to be optimal. And then we definitely separated out business and finance as 2 separate things. And that was something that I really started to understand 10 years ago, is there's a big difference between making money and keeping money. And the business side is how you make money, but the finance side is how you keep and grow money. They are 2 very different topics, and sometimes people blend them together and think they're the same thing. And then obviously politics. I mean, if you're living in a country that's run by a government that wants to see you win, you'll win. If they don't want to see you win, you're going to have to figure out how to navigate that so that you can win. So politics plays a role, whether we like it or don't like it, or want to believe it or don't want to believe it, in everything that we do. So we need to make sure that we're navigating that accordingly. And that really summarizes the things that you and I are always talking about anyway. So we said, why can't we just turn our show into what we're talking about? There's so much more value that we can give people than just the business side.
Perfectly put, man. Those are the 5 boxes, right? So those are, when we looked at it, you're absolutely right. These were conversational pieces for us offline, meaning 30 minutes before the show, we'd get into a topic on politics or on fitness and be like, well, damn, we'd love to talk about that today, but we're talking about how to get more leads in your funnel today, which is cool too. But I really want to talk about this instead. So I think you just nailed it perfectly. It really is a nice blend now that you'll see of 5 core categories that we'll cover. Really what we'll do today briefly here in the first live show back is just maybe touch on each of the 5. You mentioned politics, which I'll come to first because you come from Canada. So just
Correct.
To set the stage, you're now out of Canada and you live in the Cayman Islands. So you've sort of insulated yourself from some really bad politics that have permeated in North America. Canada, I think, is further along than America down the path of socialism. They're pretty much there. I believe they're on the doorstep of communism, and I think you probably feel the same way, and you're glad you're out.
Very much so.
Currently in America, under the current Biden administration, we've never been closer to communism. We're full on socialism at this point. Regulation everywhere, to your point, literally every aspect of your life they want to be involved in. And it isn't my opinion. You just need to look at the bills that they write and the things that they say. So that sets up a very difficult business environment for anybody in North America. Canadians are freaking out, rightfully so. I don't know how long Trudeau's going to be there, but he's got to go. You look like a genius because it looks like you were 3-4 years ahead of it. How long have you been in Cayman officially out of Canada?
I've been here on and off for 20 years.
But when you bought the house permanently, though.
Yeah, I've been here now for 4 years, back here permanently for a second run. And what's really interesting is a conversation that I had yesterday, and I'll give you two examples of things that we really have to keep our eyes out, on it, because I think what's going to happen is the U.S. is going to adopt a lot of Canadian things in the future. So you have
that's
to
what scares me the most. What you just said right there, yeah.
Yeah, is you got to keep an eye on it. Is example number one is I talked to an educator, so former school teacher who decided to start her own business, educating other teachers on how to connect with their students better. Has a great little business that she's built. She wants to hire my agency starting Tuesday. Lives in Vancouver, Canada, and it was really interesting because she's Indian, right? And she's got that very beautiful long hair, and she has that sort of spiritual vibe, with the clothes and how she talks and very soft. And she said to me, I'm very envious that you're in the Cayman Islands because Canada does not reflect my values or what we moved here for. And I no longer want to be a part of what this country has become. And because of her look, her feel, her energy, I wouldn't have expected that to come from her. She's one of those people you'd think would have a fairly passive political.
Just be thankful she's there, right?
Yes.
Just look away, don't look at, right? Don't
Exactly.
notice what's going on.
For her to just stop and want to share that with me, that shows me how hard people are being pushed in that country towards the point where they don't even want to be there anymore. And that is very concerning, obviously. And then the second thing yesterday that my wife shared with me, which is a story that you can look up on Google, is that a 93-year-old woman in Canada just decided that she wanted to subdivide a very large lot that she has in Canada because she wants to give the lots to each one of her kids before she passes away. She wants to make sure they've got a place to build a home. She just wants to subdivide the lots. And the capital gains taxes have gone so through the roof in Canada over the last year, where it's now beyond, it's beyond 50% capital gains taxes in Canada, which is so crazy that they want to charge her something like $36,000 to just subdivide her own lot and give one to her kids. And she's saying, I'm 93. Where do you think I'm going to get $36,000 to subdivide this lot from? Nobody's going to give me a bank loan. Nobody's going to give me, a credit line. And it's every decision, every transaction that's happening both in the personal and the business side right now in Canada is being so heavily pressured by regulation and taxation that every time I go back there right now to visit friends and family, I feel this impending doom. Almost everybody's like, I can't make forward progress in this country right now, no matter how hard I work. And it's really disappointing to me and shocking and surprising.
It's interesting what you just said, because we're now starting to hear that there's a mass illegal migration issue in America. There's no two ways about it, right? There's a difference, which is shockingly, people leading this country don't know the difference between legal immigration, which has always been something that is wide open, a welcoming, no country does it like America, welcoming a legal immigration process.
Great thing. Legal immigration is a great thing.
We're the example of the world. However, the current administration broke that in half and now allows for, condones, funds, and finances illegal migration. There's a very big difference between legal immigration and illegal migration. To your point, you're now seeing migrants come in who are going, this isn't what I left. This looks a lot like what I left. There's a lot of interviews I've seen, mainly from South Americans, when you think like Cuba and Venezuela. These are communist countries, and they're China also. I have a great book here called Mayo's America, about a Chinese American woman who came over, fought tooth and nail to get to America. And now she goes, I've never seen America look more like China than I do today. Whole book right here. I just bought it. Fantastic story. To your point is when it gets to the level of the immigrants who are here legally, and even the illegal migrants are like, these are a lot of the regulation, taxation. So they have to be involved in every social issue too. That's socialism, right? So Trudeau and Biden are socialists because when they need to be involved in every social issue, they're not doing politics, they're doing identity politics. And that's when people who came from maybe a communist dictatorship type regime, they go, no. That's the stuff I crawled over broken glass to leave. Why am I seeing that slipping in? Now, to your point, that's exactly what's going on.
Well, and I think there's always people who want to get instantly offended, right? So there's going to be people who just get instantly offended.
You think, Aaron?
So what
in today's new woke culture, you think people want to be instantly offended? I think people wake up in the morning looking for ways to be offended, to be honest.
Of course they do. And so here's what I want to say about my stance, and I don't speak for Andrew, on immigration. Everybody in Canada and everybody in the United States is an immigrant if you trace back their family heritage. And it's what made both of those countries great because people left places that they were not welcome to go to places that had a bigger opportunity. And when you look at the people that are coming into America now, I believe for the most part, everybody's just looking for a better opportunity for themselves, for their kids, for their family. And quite frankly, even the ones that are illegally sneaking in, I think if I was in your position, I would try it as well.
You would try it as well if the policies invited you to try it as well.
No,
see, the policies and the messaging dictate. Well, of course you would. You and I are like renegade type guys, of course. We would try to cut the fence no matter what. But here's the problem, though.
Let me finish.
Yeah,
let me
go
finish
ahead.
what I was going to say. So I don't fault anybody for trying to do whatever they have to do to get a better life for their friends and their family. However, where it throws me off is when I look at Canada or I look at where I live in the Cayman Islands right now, I have to have a work permit that has to be approved for myself to work here in the Cayman Islands.
Right.
If your work permit expires and you stay, they will throw you in jail and they will deport you and they will ban you from ever coming back again and they will put you on a plane. That's how the rest of the world operates.
That's how things operate on planet Earth, yes.
On planet Earth.
Yes.
For the people who want to get all bent out of shape about the immigration issue in the United States, it's really important to understand that the people who are saying there should be laws, people should have to apply, they should have to jump through the hoops, they should have to go through the vetting process, and if you don't do those things, you should be
there are consequences.
There's consequences. You should be detained, you should be deported, you should be blacklisted for coming in the country. The people who have that stance in the United States are not crazy. They're not racist. Maybe, okay, let's be honest. Maybe some of them are crazy. Maybe some of them are racist. That's just humanity. But all they're doing is saying we have a law. We'd like to follow the law. That's why you make laws so that there's no room for interpretation. And let's just follow the law. And by the way, for those people who don't know, that's how it works in every other country.
That is exactly right.
It's how you control crime. It's how you control resources. It's how you vet people and you hold that platform up high of like, hey, you want to come to our country, you need to be something special. You need to be unique. You need to go through the hoops. That is normal.
That is called law and order.
It's not
and I don't know the situation in Canada, but I can tell you in America that something like 24 executive orders were signed in the first 2 months of the Biden administration that undid the law and order at the border. When you undo the laws at the border and you institute catch and release type methodologies, you basically dictate and communicate to the world, shh, if you try to come in over here, we're going to look the other way. You don't have to say it. The laws say it. Its actions speak louder than words. That's why 11 million illegal, undocumented, unvetted people have come into this country. To your point, probably the majority have right intentions. But if even one doesn't, you've broke the whole system and you've put the entire country at risk. Now, I wish it was only one. We have to date in America something like 400 to 500 people have been detained that are on the FBI watch list. That's just the ones who were caught. That's a very big problem. Bigger problem is this same cabal of people who say that it's racist and all this. They like to say, well, everybody's just seeking asylum. False. Less than 30% of the people who have been polled and have been detained are seeking asylum. So now 70% of the 11 million coming in are coming in illegally. They're honestly, Aaron, most of them are middle-aged men, which is very scary. I mean, droves and busloads of people that don't even have a wife and a kid with them that are 30s and 40s is a very, very different problem. Okay? And that's what's happening in America. I don't know what's happening in Canada, but there's no two-way. Here's the thing. This is the reality. The far left in this country has broke this country so much that they will actually tell you reality is not reality, and the law and order you just perfectly explained no longer applies here, which means they are the most hypocritical, dangerous people that we've ever had in leadership in America, and that's why the country's breaking. That's one big reason, I should say, if we're talking about immigration and where it leads. And
it seems to be a pattern. Like you look at, I was talking with my daughter, who's a very left-wing, save the world, liberal human being, but she's at least smart enough that she can have organized, debates with me on her points and my points and so on and so forth. As we were talking about who's going to get elected in the US and what would be the pros and the cons of the people who would get elected. By the way, she said the best option that they have is RFK.
So she finally stopped listening to mainstream media, it looks like. I remember you and I had a conversation once, and she's like, Kennedy, what do you mean? They said he's bad. Oh, no. Yeah. We should listen to everything CNN says. Remember that?
Yeah. And then I said, go be an adult.
Go listen to a 1 hour interview.
Yeah. Go listen to a couple interviews, go do your research, and then come back and talk to me. And then she came back and she said, yeah, he's the best option they have, and he won't win because he's an independent party. And I said, you're probably right.
Well, maybe, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that, right? But when we were talking about the breakdown of the last 4 years, when we talk about, hyperinflation, when we talk about credit markets tightening, when we talk about crime increasing.
Oh, God.
You look at the policies that have been happening, and I've talked to her so many times about things like, how can businesses function in places like California, for example, where somebody can walk in to your store with a shopping cart and just dump $500 worth of things in the shopping cart and walk out the door, and they can't be arrested.
And they're not even in a rush.
That's organized anarchy.
It's organized crime, Aaron.
It is. And I said, so she said, well, these people, they're struggling. I said, listen,
that doesn't make it right.
I understand your emotional, empathetic side. But so is the business owner who's trying to employ all these people, who's trying to stay afloat. And now the government policy has basically said, we don't care about you. We care more about the person who's just going to come in and steal from you.
That's right.
And as a result, you've seen this massive business and personal exodus from California because
that's right.
Business cannot function without law.
That is exactly right. That is 100% right. Now, I don't know what the situation is in Canada, but California is basically a cookie cutter blueprint of Canada right now.
Yeah,
so what we talked about with Canada, Trudeau and Gavin Newsom they are cut from the same cloth. I mean, those guys, you could put those guys in a room together and you'd see very few differences with the way they do identity politics. They are fully bought, paid for, funded, and owned by China. They love China. They bow to China. They love totalitarianism. They are little mini dictators in the making. But you don't even have to take my word for it because their policies show it to you right in plain sight. California passed that law. If shoplifting is under $900 worth of merchant goods, it is a misdemeanor, not a crime. They literally watch these people go into the Apple store, rip off a few phones, keep it under $900, and they walk out gingerly and gently. Nothing. This is just
crazy.
One little teeny tiny example, to your point, of a lawless society eventually does cripple businesses. Do you know that some of the biggest brand name stores in America that were in downtown San Francisco, where crime is the worst, I think, they are now gone. These big shopping districts are ghost towns now. The businesses have left. The people are gone. Tesla, gone. Went to Texas. Gone. I mean,
I can tell
multiple
you that,
examples of companies leaving.
And
they're not going to be there for that reason, Aaron, because that's just crime. You put taxation and regulation on top of the crime, and you've got a trifecta like no other, and that's what you have in California. And they'll tell you it isn't happening, which is the most fascinating. I go to psychology You go to logic. Great, right? But when I look at the psychology, I go, first of all, look at how it's being presented by the far left, by the people who are in these leadership positions. They're actually telling you it isn't happening, but here's what they do. To your point with your daughter, they go right to labels. This is a textbook communist approach, Aaron. As soon as the walls start closing in, they leave the conversation and they go right to personal attacks, labels, and put downs, because most people can't handle that. They melt down, right? They don't like being attacked personally, so they go for the attack, the labels. They're doing this to RFK Jr. right now. Textbook right out of the Russian Stalin times, right? Textbook is right to character, right to put downs, right to invalidation. And by the time I'm through with you, you probably forgot the topic, right? Not you and me, but most people would have forgot the topic because the personal insults drain them. You see what's going on? So that's how they play this. They'll drain you with insults so that you forget what's going on.
Well, and I can tell you from a historical perspective, how things have traditionally worked from a business sense is because the United States is effectively 10 times bigger in population than Canada. Mm-hmm. There's more businesses creating ideas at any given time. It's common sense. It's math.
Yep.
So when a business takes off, let's take an example. Let's look in the food industry, like a Chipotle or a Quiznos or whatever. It takes off. Somebody creates something, becomes a franchise, it spreads. It typically comes to Canada about 10 years after, and it starts to spread inside of Canada because it makes sense. It's a good business. It's a good product. It's a good business model. There have been more major chains of U.S. stores pull out of Canada in the last 5 years than I can ever remember before. If you go into a Google search, you'll see this laundry list of U.S. businesses that have said, nope, we can't even function in this environment. We're closing our doors. We're pulling out. We're stopping our expansion plans. We're done. And when you see businesses pull away from places like Canada, like California, when you see them pulling away, it's a direct reflection of the way that the place is run. And we're not on here to just complain and rant and throw stones. We're here to educate and inform, because you need to see what's happening so that you can vote for change. And there's some serious voting about to come up, especially in America, this year. You have to see the forest for the trees to then decide, where is my currency going to be placed? Where is my vote going to be placed? Am I going to continue to vote to go down this road? Or am I going to find somebody I can vote for that's going to take me down the other road? Because it does impact really every facet of your life.
It absolutely does. And here's the thing. You also need to know what's going on, because you need to know how to insulate your business and defend your business from everything you just mentioned. So if you're a brick and mortar business and you just like to play the game of, that's just an exaggeration by Fox News. That's just a conspiracy theory. So if you go that route, you're in denial, and you're using labels to let yourself off the hook to be in denial. And you're not going to be able to defend yourself, because when something hits, when a bad policy or a bad law and order guideline hits you and you weren't ready for it, you chose to look the other way. That's your choice. So that's one of the reasons why we'll go deep on things like business and politics and regulation, because if you're a business owner and you're not hyper aware, I should say, of business, politics, and regulation that's going on, and the little Mickey Mouse social issues that they're trying to play with also, which are usually distractions to what's really going on, then you're missing a lot. And that will definitely come back. I can't tell you how many business owners I know, Aaron, that look back and they go, how did I miss that? How did I miss that? How did I miss this? Because you weren't paying attention. You got too busy and you thought politics wasn't for you. You thought economics wasn't for you. You thought fitness wasn't for you. You're now in the worst shape of your life in that example. You thought family wasn't for you. You now don't have a relationship. Like, these are why we talk about these big topics, because if you don't know what's happening around them and you're not willing to face reality, you can never defend yourself. You can never improve, and you can never get to the next level if you don't know what's going on and you're not willing to face some hard truths along the way.
And I think you make a good point there, because for me, I made this decision to be down in the Cayman Islands long before we were in this situation.
Yes,
I hadn't lived here before.
You did.
I enjoyed it here. But I also said, hey, if I'm going to have a business where all my IP is basically in the cloud, I don't have pharmacies, I don't have retail stores, all my IP is digital. It's in the cloud.
Right.
And I've got people working all over the world, from India to, Madrid, Spain. What is the benefit of me living in this particular country? And I looked at it with a very unbiased view. You know, you grow up in a place, your family's there, you know, you've got you're a patriot, you've got all of those things that are naturally baked into you. I tried to be unbiased, and I said, well, I want to live in a place that the weather's great every day. Okay, checkbox. I want to live in a place that feels like a small town. Okay, checkbox. I want to live in a place that is friendly, keyword friendly, to my business and friendly to my goals to grow as a successful business person. And in the Cayman Islands, you know, all of those things were checkboxes for me because they have no personal income tax, they have no property tax, they have no estate tax. You know, none of those things exist here. So what ends up happening is I make money, I invest in real estate, say in the economy. The person that I spent money on gets paid. The people that work for them get paid. It all flows around and around instead of getting sucked out of the ecosystem and put into places that I have zero interest in. And so when you're evaluating these situations, you can say, okay, well, at minimum, I'm going to participate in a vote, but maybe on maximum on the other side, what are the things that I can do or possibly entertain that are more in alignment with my value system, to even the degree as for us, as much as moving to a completely different country.
Yeah. And you had history there, which was interesting, but you do look like a genius because you got out before Canada really tanked.
Yeah.
And COVID was the catalyst for all of this, to be honest. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020, to me, ended up being a valuable lesson on exposing corporate capture, agency capture, and exposing these industrial complexes that exist that basically have government and business just literally just closing in on people's lives. That's what it showed. So looking back, do I wish it didn't happen? Of course. It crippled the world. It was mishandled from day one. Literally, they got nothing right. But look what we learned about the cabals that are pulling the strings. That's now where the resistance is in 2024 here. Now I'm starting to see conservative, independent, libertarian people standing up going, no more. Unfortunately, the liberals are not. They are completely clueless. No disrespect. They will not question anything. They will, everything that you spoon feed them, they will take and they will get on with their waving their flags. No questions asked. It's a stunning psychology to watch that we've seen the left take everything hook, line, and sinker, question nothing, no skepticism, nothing. Conservatives are now like, nope, we need you to show us the data. We need to see the money. We need to see the proof. And they're now being labeled and put down for asking for the data. That's where we're at now. So it's a really scary situation because we don't have a middle ground. We don't have pragmatism like we used to, where everybody would question government and big corporations. Now it's forbidden on the left to question big government and corporations, and now it's the norm on the right to question big government and corporation. So that's a very big problem for society, which leads me to believe there's going to be some severe social unrest and civil unrest. You take the immigration thing, illegal migration, I should say, and you throw 11 million people into the height of social unrest that exists already within. And I think you have a trifecta war that's about to happen, which scares me the most. So for you as a business owner, you as a family person watching, I do believe at some point in 2024 or 2025-ish, I do feel like it's going to be somewhere leading up to this election, you're going to have this trifecta of insane just dissent between Americans themselves, left and right. And then you have this migration mess in the middle where they've created such a big problem right there that they're going to create more animosity than anything. So the migrants who really do want to come in and have a better life, they're here illegally, right? And now America's pissed. So now America's already pissed at each other. And now there's another wave of people coming in that aren't here legally that they're pissed at. So you see what's happening here? So what they've done, and this is how the Biden administration and the left operates. Everything's right now today. There's never a thought for consequences. There's never questioning anything. There's never analysis. There's never auditing. There's never pragmatism. Nothing. Just do it because we need votes, right? That's how they operate, right? They're importing voters. But that's going to create a trifecta of three different groups of people, far left, far right, and illegal migrants that I think could create a civil war that maybe we've never even seen before. And I hope I'm wrong. The difference between somebody who is, I guess you could say, independent like us, independent conservative-ish, is when we make predictions like this, we actually hope we're wrong. The difference with the far left, the radical woke left, is when they make predictions like this, they hope they're right. That's the difference in toxicity right there. I don't love my predictions, and I genuinely hope I'm wrong. The far left global elites, they want to make these predictions about ending humanity, the world blowing up due to the weather, the COVID-19. They want to be right. They hate humanity. That's the difference, man. It's scary. Elon Musk said it best on Joe Rogan's interview not long ago. He said, guys like George Soros, Bill Gates, a lot of these guys funding a lot of these movements, he's like, I believe they genuinely hate humanity. And he's so right.
Isn't that crazy to try to contemplate? And the challenge is, and my daughter actually said, my daughter had broke down in tears the other night. She said, I feel like the world has so many problems happening right now, and it's too big, and I can't do anything about it myself, and it's crushing me. And I felt bad for her because she's young and she's optimistic and she has all these things that she wants to change in the world. A big one for her is climate. She's written a bunch of articles that have been picked up in the UK mainstream news about rising tides in the Cayman Islands and what it's doing to destroying the shorelines and a whole bunch of other things. That's really what she's passionate about. But I think when people hear conversations like this, a lot of times they feel the same way, which is, well, what can I do about it? And I think the answer to that is, first and foremost, we have a quote in our house that we repeat all the time, which is these four walls. Anytime there's a decision to be made, first and foremost, it's these four walls. And what I mean by that is we need to take care of ourselves and our kids, and we need to make the decisions first that take care of everybody inside of these four walls. So I think it starts there, is being
getting your home in order, right?
Getting your home in order, right? And then beyond that, then everything has to be looked at as just small steps forward. Because if everybody's taking small steps forward in unison, it becomes something big. But if you somehow think that you alone have to change the entire world, obviously that's not possible.
Yeah, that creates a lot of stress and pressure.
It does, right? So you start with, maybe local government levels and getting involved there. You start, making sure that you show up and you vote. You start, even in the world of social media right now, voicing a contrarian opinion if you see things happening that you don't agree with and you don't think are right. Being an active voice, there's a lot of things that you can do that when multiplied across hundreds of thousands or millions of people create change. And so it's just about looking at what's directly in front of you and what you can do today and play a small role. And once you do it, that's pretty much, that's all you can do. And you have to take the rest of the pressure off of yourself.
Yeah, it's I think because information is so readily available today, more so than ever due to social media, that people hold on a little tighter than they did in the past because they have so much access to information and there's information flying in a million places. So yeah, these are can be tough issues at times. You'll find that we're going to probably gravitate back to business more so than anything because it all tends to go back there. But you got to keep yourself physically and mentally in a certain type of condition to be able to deal with, I guess, the turmoil, to your daughter's point, that she's seeing around the world, right? We're seeing world wars breaking out all over the place. That's a huge concern, by the way. The whole Israel-Gaza thing. I think that's gonna escalate into World War III again. I have, I guess, big, you could call really negative predictions. I just call them feelings. I have a bad feeling personally about everything that I've said right here about the civil unrest thing. I have a bad feeling about where the Israel thing is going to go. I've had a bad feeling about continuing to fund Ukraine with weapons to basically be in the war against Russia without being in the war against Russia. With, by the way, no one's allowed to ask questions in America. The conservatives in Congress asked to see a balance sheet of how the money's being deployed. They were immediately shut down. Like, this is not America anymore, man. But but then the labels. So when a conservative like Rand Paul, who's a real pro-libertarian kind of Republican conservative guy, comes out and says, we just want to see the accounting on how $60 billion gets diverted to Ukraine and who gets paid. Shut down, labeled conspiracy theory, far right-wing, radical. See what's going on?
Antagonistic.
So I'm already starting to forget the topic because now I'm feeling attacked.
Right.
If my mind is strong enough and I understand psychology, I go, all the labels in the world. My main question was, I want to see the money. Right? Yep. Most don't. They won't get back to the original topic because it's basically PSYOP. It's psychological warfare.
And let's be clear. It's not that I want to see our money. It's I would like to see the taxpayers' money.
Well, that's our money.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. But
there's always that differentiation that needs to be made. It's not.
That's considered radical, Aaron, today in America,
government
by the way.
Makes nothing. The government
works
earns
for us.
Nothing.
They work for us.
You earn everything, and the government takes your money and deploys it potentially based on your vote. And so if you're not actively involved in that, and you feel weird that somebody's saying, where is the money being spent? Would you let somebody who is employed for you have a blank check to go spend money on whatever they want? Of course you wouldn't, but that's the same situation.
Would you import an illegal migrant from another part of the country and pay all their expenses, including their flight into America, and then drop them off in a city and then give them debit cards and pay for their food and pay for their life and try to get them a citizenship so that they can vote in the next election? I mean, no, these are things that you would never do if you were honest and ethical and you were a for the people type leader like RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is. I mean, I think his timing is impeccable right now with getting on an independent ticket and actually trying to break down the far right and the far left establishments in the United States of America, because that's a guy that has the pedigree like no other. We've done full shows on Sales Velocity TV. We did like 3 shows in the last 2 years on the Robert F. Kennedy phenomenon. You said in the beginning of the show, everybody's just defaults to he's an independent, he can't win. I'm going to be posting on social media, I believe today or tomorrow, the latest polls, Aaron. So the polls that we see are basically little micro polls that have been done for years by huge, like Rasmussen polls, 1,000 people, 800 people in Michigan. The biggest poll just came out last week, 30,000 Americans, no bipartisan funding. So here's the key, right? The poll can't be funded by either party. It can't have any conflicts of interest. It just has to be people answering questions. Good old-fashioned surveys in the streets. Kennedy calls it grassroots politics. It's exactly what it is. It's a grassroots poll. 30,000 people polled. Guess what happened in the poll, Aaron?
I'm dying to know.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. I mean, I was even blown away, and I've been a Kennedy donor to his nonprofit since 2018 and a huge advocate for his presidency. They did it. How does he match up with Biden? Landslide, like 270 electoral votes to like 180, like landslide. Kennedy Biden head on. Kennedy Trump head on. Edges Trump by 5 points. So in a one-on-one with Biden, it's demolished. In a one-on-one with Trump, he beats him by, he said, sliver, right? Small little percent. And these are real polls. And overall, the favorability rating, his is higher than both of theirs combined. These are all the things you'd never see in mainstream media, which goes to show you how truly crooked mainstream media is, how truly crooked polling is, and how truly crooked a lot of what we see is that we take for granted. And we could just go back to COVID and things like the CDC and the FDA and the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization, all these 3-letter designation organizations that are supposed to have our best interests in mind, that when we dig a little deeper, we find nothing but conflicts of interest and money trails that don't lead to public health or don't lead to protecting the people. That poll is scaring the living you-know-what out of both the Biden camp and the Trump camp. And now we're getting into the summer of 2024 here, and now it's time to make the ballots and get to debates. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this gets perceived in America, because right now, nobody's technically on the ballot. I don't know if you know what that means.
Share it with the
Biden has to be sworn in at the DNC convention in August. This is just how it works by law, Democrat. Trump has to be sworn in person at the Republican National Convention in July. Kennedy, as an independent who's not part of the political establishments, has to do things differently. He has to get a certain amount of signatures in each state. He's on the ballot, I think, in 12 states now. And there's fees involved too. He has to. There's a combination.
Huge amounts of fees.
Yeah, I think it's like 15, 20 million overall to get on all 50 ballots. He's on track to be on all 50 ballots by September, which is phenomenal. It's never happened before. He's already on 12 or 14 right now. So technically, nobody's on the ballot until this summer. My thing is, when all 3 guys are on the ballot. By the way, Trump won't be on the ballot either, because they're going to sentence him 4 days before the RNC. See how that works? Like him or hate him, sentencing was set 3 days before. They would like nothing more than to have him taken away in hand. Oh, if you can't go to the Republican National Convention, then you can't be sworn in. and then you can't get on the ballot. Do you not see what's going on here, folks? Like Trump or hate him, me and Aaron don't love Trump. I didn't vote for him in the last election. I think him and Biden are too old, personally. I think they have baggage. I think other people, we have supported other people rising up. They got ousted by Trump. That's just the way it works. But it's going to be very interesting to see who really gets on the ballot come July, August, and who doesn't. And I think it's going to shock a lot of people. To my point here, it was a long-winded explanation, but it's important is Kennedy the Independent is suddenly going to look amazingly favorable when he's on the ballot and the other guys are barely on the ballot and they're projected to be the guys on the ballot. Although Biden won't be in this race either. He's being replaced in August. I have great information on that. Trump, I think they'll try to keep him off. And Biden, I think, will be replaced. You want to take the prediction right now with 99% accuracy. My sources are phenomenal. I don't think we've been wrong on anything in the last 3 years. It looks like they're going to install Michelle Obama as an emergency candidate.
And I think it would be smart on their behalf if they did.
Well, I don't know about smart. I think they have to do it. It's a desperation play.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, there's a lot going on, man.
As we come to the close of our first episode here, what do you want to say to the listeners and the viewers about what they should expect from this show moving forward?
Yeah, I would expect deep dives in the big 5 categories, right? We talked a little business, we talked a little bit of politics today, but I think what you're going to find more so than anything is Aaron and I really coming back to ways that you can make your life better, and ways that you can insulate yourself from really a world that is not going to look a lot like the world you and I grew up in, Aaron. It's just a very different environment right now. It's going to be more challenging. And it's going to be a lot more expensive to live in also.
Agreed.
Right? So ways that you will be able to make money, diversify your income sources from a business entrepreneurship standpoint will always be the core of the show. Politics, for all the reasons we mentioned, will make or break you if you don't know what's going on because you won't know how to play the game or defend yourself against the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game, right, Aaron? And then fitness, family is really important because you've got it. That to me, that's your balance, right? Like I look at my life and I go, at 50 years old, how do you think I would feel and perform every day if I didn't have a rigorous fitness routine? Sometimes I go, I would be a mess.
You would.
I would be I think you get agitated. I think you get irritable. And I think you start feeling like crap. And how do you expect to perform and run businesses and run companies if fitness isn't a big piece? We're going to bring guests on in the fitness space that are next level people. It's another thing you're going to see on the show is guests, long form interviews, 2-hour plus interviews where I might bring on the CEO of a fitness company or a big influencer and a thought leader that I like who we can interview together and talk about what are some of the hacks, what are some of the things we're doing today to get out of the biopharmaceutical complex and create your own, wellness programs and your own health. And then, of course, family we'll talk about in finance and money. There's a lot of stuff. Lastly, I'll leave with this, Aaron. The 5th pillar is there are so many cool things happening right now in the finance space. I'll give you 2 examples of things I'm looking into and doing right now. There's some interesting stuff happening in the crypto space because now you have most of Wall Street buying into crypto like Bitcoin and Ethereum. I've always been a small player in it, but I've always had exposure. I'm also a big gold and silver guy. They're at record highs right now. Okay. And you and I have some exposure to the stock market, but then there's some Forex trading and there's also some really phenomenal business ideas, revenue streams that you can implement into your business and your life to monetize what it is that you're doing or create additional income streams. So coming back to the finance thing, we could do multi-hour episodes on just finance. And I think that's where we're headed. So I know that's a mouthful, but those are really the 5 categories we decided we want to play in here as we move the show forward. Again, it's business, politics, fitness, family, and finance. No particular order. They just sort of rang off my tongue that way, and they rang off the writer's tongue that way. But we might bounce around. But I think what you'll see on the show is we'll probably really hone in on a topic, let's call it fitness, for example, in some real specificity around that and devote entire shows to one of the core 5 topics. We might overlap a little bit like we did today. We bounced around today deliberately on purpose. But I think what you'll see is we'll really get focused on one of those topics and get real specific on how you can win in one of those categories week over week over week. I don't know how many times we'll do the show, probably once, twice a week. But it'll be fun. There's going to be tremendous information, and there's going to be a lot of great advice. Again, leveraging you and I's 30, 40, 50, 60 plus years experience in the business world. And our connections are fantastic. I would say pound for pound, between who we know, what we've been through, who we've seen at our age and our stage in life. We've got some really great connections. And at the end of the day, people in relationships matter more than anything, because it's the people in the relationships that really allow you to connect to information that matters the most.
Agreed. I'm looking forward to episode 2 of the new rebrand.
Well, it isn't going to be episode 2.
I know. You know what I meant.
Like, episode 2 of the rebrand, but like 155 of the whole show. But yeah, we're going to have some fun here. We will have a site up. It should probably say coming soon right now, but all the shows will be at the a2show.com. We have a site going up here shortly. We'll have all past episodes of Sales Velocity TV in the show notes as well. And we look forward to seeing you on the next show. Same time, same place. Hope you enjoyed the beginning of a new era here, Aaron. This was fun. We'll see you next time.